I don't think it is that odd to sometimes want to kill your own kids. After all, you gave birth to them, and as an old shriveled maid once told me, some kids are shits, darling, and I was never able to forget it. Most of the time, it is just a passing feeling that we bury under the love we tell ourselves we feel for our kids, which we do feel most of the time, but not always. Definitely not when they have shamed us in front of the whole school. But what if that feeling refuses to go away? What if you stood at the edge, stared into the abyss and heard a voice whisper, "Why not jump in?" Don't you want to know what that feels like? The great Edgar Allan Poe called it the imp of the perverse. Ryu Murakami's Piercing is basically that feeling turned into a novel. If you are not familiar with Murakami, he is a major figure in Japanese literature who loves dragging us into the darkest corners of human mind. If you have seen Tokyo Decadence or Audition, you know exactly what I am talking about. The guy knows how to make you squirm. In my head, he always sits next to Jack Ketchum. So Piercing kicks off with possibly the most unsettling opening I have read in years. We see this guy Kawashima, and if you are expecting a child or are nursing a newly born, now is the time to click away. So yeah, Kawashima, he is standing over his baby's crib in the middle of the night, holding an ice pick. His wife is asleep nearby, completely unaware, and he is just fighting this horrific urge to stab his own child. This is the imp of the perverse on steroids. We all have fleeting dark thoughts, but Kawashima's imp has grown from a whisper to a scream. What makes it so effective is how ordinary everything else is. It's this peaceful domestic scene with this terrifying threat lurking in plain sight, and Kawashima's internal struggle feels so real. He is horrified by his own thoughts, which somehow makes it even more disturbing. But he is in control. The dark passenger is still not driving. The kiddo is not stabbed. Yet. So our guy comes to the most obvious conclusion. He gotta kill someone else to satisfy the dark passenger, to quieten the imp. And if you are thinking that this is Dexter fanfiction, you would be dead wrong. After all, darkly dreaming Dexter started dreaming much later. A whole 12 years later actually. What really got to me was Murakami's writing style. It's weirdly detached, almost clinical. He describes these horrific thoughts and impulses like he is reporting the weather. There's no judgment, just facts. And that forces you, the reader, to be the one who reacts. This approach is genius because it normalizes the imp of the perverse. Murakami isn't saying, "Look at this monster." He's saying, "Look at this human being with dark thoughts, just like you." It's like he's holding up a mirror, and that's way more unsettling than any heavy-handed moral judgment would have been. If you are into films, it's kind of like watching a David Lynch movie, that surreal, unsettling quality where everything feels just slightly wrong. Or like early Tarantino, where the violence isn't glorified, but it's presented in this matter-of-fact way that makes it more disturbing somehow. Murakami's imagery is vivid but controlled, especially that ice pick, which, well, is the imp of the perverse made physical. The main character, Kawashima, is a graphic designer with a wife and a baby. My wife's a designer too. Just saying, designers are really lovely, empathetic human beings by and large. But underneath, he's battling these violent impulses that he can't shake. His solution? Find someone else to stab instead of his kid. His particular imp has grown so powerful that he can't simply ignore it anymore. He feels he has to feed it somehow. His backstory explains a lot. Abused by his mother, time in a group home, and an abusive ex. But it does not make his plans any less disturbing. He is meticulously planning this crime, which is his way of trying to control the chaos in his head, to tame his imp. rather than be controlled by it. Though the water is well over his head, he just never realizes it. Then there's Chiaki, the ascendant prostitute he hires as his potential victim, and she is just as possessed by her own imp of the perverse. But while Kawashima's imp urges him to harm others, Chiaki's drives her to harm herself. She was molested by her father and regularly engages in self-destructive behavior. There's this really dark irony in how these two broken people find each other. Two different manifestations of the same perverse impulse drawn together like magnets. Here's the thing, piercing isn't just trying to shock us, though it definitely does that. It's exploring how that imp of the perverse manifests in different aspects of our lives. First, there is violence as a cycle. Murakami shows how the imp gets passed down from generation to generation. Both main characters suffered abuse as kids, and now they are caught in these patterns of violence themselves. One directed outwards, one inward. It's like the imp of the perverse is an inheritance that they can't escape. The book also dives into how pleasure and pain can become twisted together, especially after trauma. As any survivor will tell you, the pain is the first step to healing, so you must welcome it. The ascendant elements aren't just for shock value. They are showing how these characters' imps have invaded their most intimate experiences, turning their sexuality into another battleground. These characters are so cut off from normal human connection. They are living in this modern urban environment but completely alone with their demons. That isolation gives their imps more power. When you are alone with these thoughts, with no one to provide perspective, they can start to seem like the only reality. Murakami really gets into the obsessive thought patterns, the intrusive thoughts, the way trauma rewires your brain. You can see how Kawashima's imp operates, how it starts as a fleeting thought, grows into an obsession, and eventually demands action. It's a perfect illustration of Poe's concept, that perverse impulse that pushes us towards the very thing we fear most, and against which my psychiatrist had prescribed drugs. If you need any, do talk to your doctor. And all of this stems from childhood trauma that's still casting a long shadow over their adult lives, though some of the trauma clearly came later as well. Without it, the imp may have already starved to death. But Murakami keeps reminding us that our personal imps are formed early and we never really escape them. We just find different ways to cope with them. Some more destructive than others, like some of us gamble and others invest in stocks, no? The book has been called everything from creepy to a Japanese David Lynch nightmare, which honestly is spot on. It is going to make you uncomfortable. That's kind of the point. It forces you to confront your own imp of the perverse, which is never a comfortable experience. While this may not be Ryu Murakami's best, it is still a romp on the darker side of human nature. If you have read it, don't forget to share your thoughts and your favorite Murakami. More importantly, what does your imp of perverse whisper to you? How do you silence it? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it.